Google debuted its new Material 3 Expressive UI design and Android 16 today. The company also disclosed that stable Android 16 will be available for Samsung's compatible Galaxy smartphones and tablets in the summer of 2025. The release schedule for stable One UI 8 on Galaxy devices has been disclosed. The president of the Android ecosystem, Samir Samat, declared at the conclusion of today's episode of the Android Show that Android 16 will be available on Samsung smartphones this summer. Therefore, the update will be available for Galaxy phones and tablets sometime between June 20 and September 22 of this year. The update will be available for Google Pixel devices in June. This information is consistent with our exclusive news from a few months ago, in which we disclosed that One UI 8.0 will be pre-installed on the Galaxy Z Flip 7 and the Galaxy Z Fold 7. According to several rumors, the phones will go on sale in July. Additionally, we recently revealed that Samsung plans to launch the One UI 8 beta program this month. Therefore, the next update is probably going to be released sooner rather than later. We installed the One UI 8 on a handful of our devices after internal test builds were released a few days ago. Many Galaxy owners throughout the world were dissatisfied when UI 7 was delayed by more than 5 months. Samsung is attempting to make amends by launching the One UI 8 significantly earlier than the One UI 7. In the coming weeks, the One UI 8 beta program is probably going to be available for the Galaxy S25 series, followed by older phones in the weeks that follow. The third quarter of each year is often when Google releases a significant new version of Android. But this year, the business is taking its time, and it has chosen to release Android 16 in the second quarter. Next month, it might introduce new Pixel phones running Android 16. Although we all anticipated it, it is now official. Android 16 will be available for Galaxy handsets this summer. The first beta of the One UI 8 may be released as early as this month, according to recent rumors, and a leaked sample of the software has already been circulating. Google has now verified it. Android 16 will reach stable status next month, with rollouts for Samsung and other brands beginning this summer, the firm stated during the Android Show, which serves as a prelude to Google I/O. According to a recent leak, Samsung is already working on a significant software update for the Galaxy S23 series of high-end smartphones, which are now 2 years outdated. According to the report, smartphones from the range have been observed running an anticipated Android 16-based version of the OEM One UI. The Galaxy S23 line of former Android flagships is still only receiving the most recent stable software update, the One UI 7.0. with the April 2025 security patch. Globally, though if the most recent rumors are to be believed, it will soon receive an even more recent version of the same software. It is predicated on the finding of several Galaxy S23 devices on Geekbench, all of which are identified as running Android 16 as opposed to the One UI 7's Android 15 base. All of the phones appear to be with the S23 Plus having the model number SM916U. The vanilla, also known as the Samsung S23 with model number SM911U, and the more expensive S23 Ultra with model number SMS918U is not included in this leak as of yet. However, each of them has at least 8 gigs of RAM and runs the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy platform. The primary purpose of the One UI 7.0 for the Galaxy S23 series is to install new Galaxy AI features like Note Assist, Call Assist, and Interpreter. It also adds the Google Gemini app to the handsets, while keeping the S23 Ultra's incredibly helpful S Pen functional. Although the UI 8 is believed to be a series of iterative updates to the same set of features as of right now, it may also bring Android 16's more stringent security updates, enhanced UWB functionality, and live updates to devices that are about 2 years old. Why is Samsung's most significant Android update to date One UI 8? The Android community has been talking about Samsung's the One UI 7 update for the past few weeks. There's been a lot to talk about, including delayed rollouts, significant UI changes, and intriguing new features. Furthermore, even if the update is generally excellent, Samsung has made enough blunders and missteps that the criticism around the One UI 7 overshadows all of its positive aspects. People are angry, trust has been betrayed, and Samsung is now in a somewhat vulnerable position. Additionally, the business regrettably lacks the luxury of taking a break before its next significant software upgrade. Samsung's version of Android 16, the One UI 8, is expected to launch as early as this summer. Furthermore, the One UI 8 may be Samsung's most significant update to yet, given all we recently saw with the One UI 7. Since last October, the One UI 7 has been the source of growing frustration. Samsung's One UI 7 deployment was as disorganized as they come after a few years of consistently and swiftly releasing Android updates. There was no precise timetable for the update's public release, betas were postponed, and Samsung's communication was woefully inadequate over the entire process. None of it was good, whether Samsung was being completely silent or was just giving hazy release dates to anticipate. Samsung had to halt its distribution at the last minute to fix unforeseen flaws when the One UI 7 was finally ready for the general public, 6 months after Google Pixel phones received Android 15. Although Samsung deserves praise for the speed at which the update was resumed, it was the ideal way to wrap up the events in the months preceding the release of the One UI 7. People already had a terrible taste in their mouths from this, but when the One UI 7 spread to more and more devices, the situation just became worse. People installing the One UI 7 soon discovered that essential components of their phones no longer functioned as they were used to, which further exacerbated their dissatisfaction with an update that truly couldn't afford it. This should have been an exciting update to receive after months of delays. Perhaps the biggest irritant is Samsung's new split design for the quick settings and alerts. Is it a pleasant backup plan? Of course. However, it was a poor decision to make it the default layout in the One UI 7, radically altering the way users are accustomed to using such a vital component of their phones. Even though it hasn't been as bad, the new app drawer design, modifications to lock screen notifications, and other things have caused similar aggravation. The fact that every one of these blunders is causing distress to various demographics is especially devastating for Samsung. People who follow the Android community closely will likely be able to navigate the UI changes, but they are also well aware of how clumsy and clunky the One UI 7 release has been, which doesn't give them much confidence for where Samsung is going next. Normal Samsung phone owners may not be aware of the turmoil surrounding the launch of the One UI 7, but they are aware that their phone usage has changed significantly in a short period of time, and they are not happy about it. That is, nobody's content. Both casual users and ardent supporters are angry, and Samsung is not benefiting from any of those situations. Samsung must undoubtedly get the One UI 8 back on track, but will it be successful? The corporation appears to be moving in that direction, at the very least. Google announced earlier this week during the Android show that Samsung's Android 16 with the One UI 8 update will be available on phones this summer. There should be a far shorter wait between the release of Android 16 on Pixel phones and the release of the One UI 8 on Samsung phones, as Android 16 is expected to come on Pixel phones in June. At this point, I'll believe it when I see it, but it's encouraging if Samsung can make such a speedy turnaround following the chaos of One UI 7. Samsung appears to be aware that a recurrence of the One UI 7 incident is unaffordable. Samsung is adjusting the date of its release, but what about the radical new changes it is imposing on consumers? There should be fewer chances to irritate people because the One UI 8 isn't expected to be nearly as significant an update as the One UI 7 was, according to rumors. Nevertheless, I would like to see Samsung improve its more significant One UI 7 modifications, such as making tutorials and introductions better or making them optional instead of the new default. We might never find out why the One UI 7 was so controversial, as Samsung has not provided an explanation. To ensure that One UI 8 can restore the goodwill lost with its predecessor, Samsung appears to recognize that it cannot afford a recurrence of what transpired there. So that's all we know for now. We'll be sure to keep you updated as soon as we have more information. Thanks for watching.